Hello and welcome to another episode of Stories from the Pack, the series that's been created to share supporters' memories of following Wolves, a trip down memory lane, or should that be a new way. On this episode, I'm delighted to be joined by someone who'll be a familiar voice to regular Fancast listeners. It's fellow fancastrian Adam Price. Adam, how are you doing?
Hello, mate. I'm not too bad, thank you. You?
Yeah, all good, all good. We had a brief chat sort of just before we came on board, really. Obviously, in terms of when the pod comes out, it may be a little bit time sensitive, but it's generally assumed that we'll be going through lockdown 2020, unless somebody listens back in many years to come and go and thinks what the hell was going on. But how's things for you at the moment?
Well, just looking forward to the country hitting stage 3 of lockdown, as we've just been told. Yeah, it's strange times. I mean, with coronavirus, I suppose I'll probably count me as one of the lucky ones, whose job has not been materially affected by the virus. In that I've still got a job. I've not been furloughed. It's just that right now my job has never been as busy, so my free time has been squeezed to the point of max, really. But there you go. That's what it is, and that's what we have to deal with. But other than that, all good.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Well, that's kind of the present day as it is. But as I really mentioned on the introductions to the podcast, if you haven't listened to the series before, what we like to do on this is really go through the memories of supporters. So we get people on really to share their experiences. And really, this is what the pod's about. So it's a fantastic opportunity to say have a look down memory lane. So we'll start where we always do, really at the beginning. So for yourself, Adam, really talk me through sort of your first recollection of being a Wolves fan, and linking in really with your first memories, be that supporting the team and then going to the Molineux itself.
Yeah, so I guess you could probably count me as well. I would class myself from my generation as being probably a bit of a latecomer to the party, really, with Wolves. I mean, so most people's rite of passage, or most sons' rite of passage, is that the dad takes them to the game, or takes them to the first Wolves match, and I never had that because my dad really just isn't into football, to be honest. So he'll watch it if it's on the telly, he'll watch whoever's on, but he's not a Wolves fan. He's not got any affiliation to any team. So my first games were really watched on telly, as really for the late 90s. And for me, I was kind of really desperate to get down the Molineux and get to go to see games live. But my mates, they already did have tickets, season tickets with their dads. And I guess, as I was, in my teens, I kind of had a different attitude. I thought it would probably be a bit uncool for me to go to games on my own. I wouldn't blink twice about doing it now. I only had one friend who wanted to go with me, but he had a Saturday job at McDonald's, so it was pointless, him getting a ticket with me. So I was going to games as and when I could, throughout the early noughties, shall we say, sitting as close as I could to my friends and their dads. I went to the bulk of the games I went to was through unfortunately our bottle job season and the season we actually got promoted, and I think I managed to get me tickets to the playoffs against Reading, the home game, and I actually did take my dad to the Newcastle home game in the FA Cup, and was actually in the South Bank for that game, like really plumb seats in the middle of the South Bank. So I thought, I think that some fans at that point would begin to lose a bit of faith whether or not we'd go up or not. So there was a few spaces, but my first season ticket was actually, funnily enough, when we got promoted into the Premier League under Dave Jones, and I think I was one of the masses who'd applied for a season ticket, and luckily, I managed to get one. And the only people I could get a season ticket with, and it's a bit of a tenuous link, it was my mum's friend's husband and son, who I was managed to go with, and we were sitting in the John Ireland stands with their the season ticket. But I knew pretty early on it wasn't really going to work out between the three of us because they kind of had a different attitude to the games than I did. And I think the first home game was against Charlton, and they wanted to leave early with about just under 5 minutes left, and I just thought that this isn't how I do things. So I only spent one season with them, and I moved to North Bank for 3 years with a work colleague, and then since about 2007, I've been in the South Bank ever since, really.
And I think as well, with the sort of the memories that I have, because for anyone listening, me and Adam do go back some time, and I think I remember going to Brentford away and we were getting annihilated. I'm sure you were very defiant then in terms of, no, I'm not going to leave early. I'm not going to leave early. That's obviously something that sort of stayed through, really, which is admirable. So would you say do you remember what your first game was specific? Was it in terms of, did you go now and again? And then, as you say, sort of when we got promoted, that Charlton was sort of your first game as a regular as such?
So my first ever Wolves game was Saturday, the 2nd of December 2000, and it was was at home to Barnsley. We beat Barnsley 2-0. So obviously, 2000 we were a bit of a middling average first division team or a championship team, I suppose, and we was only getting about 17,000 crowds. And I actually got tickets through my school at the time, so I think I would have been in sixth form, I think, at that point, or year 12, one of the last years anyway. And the schools obviously get given tickets for free to get some kids to go. And yeah, me and my mate Al, we went. I remember Tony Dinning scoring, and I had to look up and see who else scored. It was Carl Robinson, and I remember it being like a pretty routine victory, really. Barnsley weren't any great shakes back then, really, either. And I remember sitting by a bloke who was getting really irate that even though we were 2-0 up, he was upset at everyone else saying, "Go on, get a third," and he was just throwing his hands up, trying to tell everyone just to be happy with what we've got, really. And I remember Tony Dinning, so I really quite liked him when we signed him, and I thought he was going to be a really good player for us. I know he didn't really hang around for too long, from what I can remember. But I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed the atmosphere. I was in the John Ireland stand at that point, so I knew no better of Molineux. Obviously, we know what that stand is like now, but I didn't know any better at the time. And I remember having bought a programme for the game, and I remember getting back and my mum defacing it by writing the scoreline on the front of it, writing Wolves 2, Barnsley 0, and I remember kicking off, thinking, "Oh, you've ruined it now. You've defaced it." And she tried to rub it out and just made it worse. And so, forget it. You've ruined it now. But yeah, I quite remember. I think I remember Tony Dillon's goal actually, quite vaguely. But yeah, it's quite a run of the mill routine game to go to. Really, nothing too uneventful about it. Just a comfortable win, really, in a season which really, didn't really offer too much. I think I did look back actually. It was one of Colin Lee's second to last game before we got sacked. I think he was sacked 2 weeks after that game when we lost at home to Blues. I think it was just shortly after that game he got sacked, and then obviously Dave Jones come in.
It's interesting as well. So, like you said earlier, really, I think a lot of people have sort of conventional ways of getting into football or shall I say, sort of going to the games. It's like the classic, my dad took me and so forth. But, we've done a few of these and I think it's interesting because sometimes that's not the obvious way in. It's just an opportunity, like you say, to say, I'm watching the side, I want to get involved, and you're trying to kind of find your way in terms of your regular seat, where you want to sit and so forth. So obviously in that first period in the Premier League, you then decided, actually, I want to move seats. And did you find going to more games and I guess perhaps from people you'd meet on a work level that you became more of a regular and found sort of, a more better way of watching the games at that time? And
yeah, so after I moved into the North Bank, I had a friend from work who used to sit in J7 in John Ireland stand, and we moved into North Bank. I think she was sitting on her own, and I wanted to leave where I was sitting. So we moved into the North Bank, and there were actually quite good seats, and we got quite a good camaraderie with the people that we were sitting around at the time. But then, I was circumstances kind of changed, and I started going actually into town and travel to the game with, one of my best mates who I sit next to now in the South Bank, and it kind of started not making much sense that I would go to the game with someone else and then split off and go and sit by someone who I literally just saw for the game, and then that was it. So, as much as I enjoyed the North Bank, and I did, to be fair, I've moved across to the South Bank, I think, in 2007, and I've been there ever since in the same seat. So I've had numerous people come and go next to me, sat either side of me, but the two lads who sit in front of me have been there ever since. So you have that camaraderie with people who you only see them normally on a match day. You give them a handshake and a hello, and you talk about the game, and then that's it. It took me about 3 or 4 years, probably even longer actually, before I actually said, "What are your names?" I think we see you every match day at home, and you don't even know your names. And turns out they don't even live that far from me, to be honest. So it's good. It's good. It was, like I say, I've not had the traditional entry into Wolves by having your dad take you. I've just been looking on the outside, and my dad, bless him, sometimes even in recent years, I've asked, do you want to? If I've got a spare ticket going, like if Matt next to me can't go, if I say I've got a spare ticket, do you want to come? He'll say, "Oh no, I've got to go to Screwfix tomorrow." And I'm like, "Well, okay, it's fine, but you can do that and still go to the game." And then he'll give me the real reason, just say, "No, I'm not bothered." To be honest, I mean,
Screwfix or United at home. That's the.
I know. I have actually managed to drag him to a game this year. I took him to Spurs at home, and I think he quite enjoyed it, to be honest. But yeah, he's just not that minded about going, to be honest. So yeah, I had a different route into it.
But I think what's interesting there, which I've talked about this on a separate pod, which you brought up in terms of the season ticket and who sits around you, because I remember myself when I had a season ticket for a number of years, same scenario, and when you think about it, you're going to how many other games a season in the Championship? It's a lot more, Saturday, Tuesday.
Mm-hmm.
You're going through these mixture of emotions with people who are in your collective inner circle. And yeah, some people would have little conversations going on, and it's kind of like, oh, at what point do I kind of have a chat? And, you'll have a chat on a football sense, but that guy behind you could be he could be a brain surgeon, he could be this, he could be that. And I do find it quite fascinating that you have those circles, really. And also, what I used to remember was, and you might have had the same, the first game of the season, you'd look around, 10 minutes to go. Oh, yeah, they're back. They're back. Oh, no one's there. No one's there. Who have we got? Because really, that's who you're sharing your experience with, aren't you?
Yeah, I used to have a really big guy. I used to sit to my right, and he was a hugger. So literally every time a goal went in, I was just accosted by this guy. Whether I liked it or not, he was getting me. And even if I wanted to celebrate with my mate Matt and go to my left, he would just grab me and pull me back to him, and I'd be like, "Oh, no, this is me. I'm celebrating with this guy now," and especially now since the extra seating's been put in, that's the seat that's to my right. So sometimes I get a different person every week who's sitting next to me now, and which is a shame in a way, because the guy next to him and his son, I chat with them a lot as well. So we're always divided by a different person at every home game. But no, it's good. I mean, it's great. You get a camaraderie with them. You have a laugh with people. You talk a lot about Wolves, but then you also have some, you can have some arguments with these people. I've had some couple of arguments with these lads who I've sat with in front of me for a while. We have difference of opinion on most things, which is fine, really. Obviously, nothing wrong with that. But when times are bad and the team's not doing well, and they have a strong opinion with something, and you've got a strong opinion the other way, you can find yourself coming away from the game, or I do. I come away from the game thinking, Oh, he's really annoyed me this week. You know, he said X, Y, and Z. I just don't agree with it, but you forget about it by the time the next game rolls around.
It's a dysfunctional family, isn't it? At time, and we're all sort of different in terms of kind of our support. But I just like the idea there that you'd identified a hugger. It's kind of like, you can see them in the crowd. Oh, we got a hugger here. Okay. It's if you sort of have a card system to identify you, but that's really sort of your home experience, and we'll perhaps go when we look at highs and lows, and they may be incorporated in terms of your Molyneux experience. But if we go sort of away from home as such, do you remember either your first away game or any particular memories of away games to date?
Yeah, so I remember my first away game because I did take my dad to it. Well, I probably dragged him to it, but it was 24th of August 2002, and
You've got them all written down here.
Yeah, I had to go back and look them up just to make sure I got it. Just to make sure I got my bearings right. But it was Derby 1, Wolves 4. It was in their promotion season, and I remember it because there was a lot of away fans there, and I've actually looked, and there's 3,500 away fans there. And again, I think it was at the start of our promotion season, so I think people were still a bit scolded by what went on the year before. So we were able to get away tickets. Obviously, went to general sale. Not like now where you'd have no chance, but yes. So I remember my dad had drove, and I think we parked up at. I can't remember what park he was, but it was parked by a really big park, and it took about 20 odd minutes or so to walk to the ground. Obviously, I was a bit of a novice of away games at this point, so I went. I had my colours on, I had my kit on, and not full kit, just the top. But I remember the game because I think Derby had just been relegated, and there was me, my dad to my left, and then just this mentalist who was to my dad's left, and I remember him because he just kept a full screaming voice, just slating Derby every time the ball just went out of play. He'd just start saying, "That's why you fucking went down," or every time a ball just went out of play. And I think he's quite early on in the season. I don't think Paul Ince was fit. He went off relatively early on in the first half and brought Kevin Cooper on, and I really like Kevin Cooper. And we went. I think we took the lead and went. I think we didn't go behind, but I think we got pegged back 1-1, and then Kevin Cooper scored a really good goal, like a 20 yarder thunderbolt. And this guy, this mentalist, come around. He was hugging both me and my dad, and then my dad had kind of just leant back from him, and I'd let go and turn to my right, but he didn't let go of me. And that in turn meant I dragged him over to me, and he fell into the row seats in front of me. Basically, I was like, "Oh God, this guy! What's the guy going to do now?" So about 3 or 4 of us reached down to pick him up, pulled him back up to meet where me and my dad were, thinking he's going to have a go, and he just carried on celebrating. He was just delirious with excitement. And obviously it was a great day because we won 4-1, and it was a great start to the season. I just remember it was a bit dicey when I was walking back to the car because obviously I think we had to walk through some built-up areas of Derby and past the train station, and I obviously had my kit on, and we were walking. I just remember all these some pebbles and stones just started falling at my feet, and I looked up, and there was these young Derby lads who basically, because they obviously could see I was a Wolves fan, they just started throwing bricks and pebbles at me. I thought, okay, this isn't good. So just me and my dad just kind of sped up our walk, and we walked as fast as we could back to the car before anything untoward happened. But no, yeah, that was my first away day. I've really got the bug for it then, because it's a different kettle of fish, isn't it? As we both know, for away games, and being in the minority, you get to experience different part of the country, different atmosphere. It's just great. I got the bug for it then, and obviously where possible, I tried to get to many more. And obviously, when I had a season ticket, obviously get the opportunity to go to a lot more. But until then, I tried in that promotion season to get to many more as I could.
And sort of as an overview, and I guess we're in a fortunate position now. We can include, outside of England with the European campaign. Any particular grounds that stand out for any particular reason in terms of the away games you've been to? And
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned it before about Brentford, but I love Griffin Park. I really, really love Brentford's ground, and I think the reasons are obvious. To be honest, it's just a unique ground. It's sad that they're leaving it, really, but when we last went, it's the four pubs on the corner. It's so unique in its setup and the location that you can do the four pub stops on each corner. I think when we last went, I think we had about 9 beers before we even got in the grounds. Which, and to be fair, given how the game went, it was needed, to be honest. But also keeping in London as well. I really do like Fulham's ground as well, because that's got a bit of character to it, given the location of it, and we are quite partial to a London away day. I do quite like the freedom that you get when you go to a London away day. You're not like when we've been to Huddersfield before and you're met off the train and corralled into the worst pub that Huddersfield's got to offer. In London, you step off the train, step off the tube, and just go where you want. And so I really like Brentford and Fulham have hold good memories for me, but also Nottingham Forest as well. I do quite like. It's a nice ground, just set on the River Trent, and again, I like the city. I really like the city centre of Nottingham. Obviously, there's some stories that go with Nottingham Forest away days, and then some with Fulham away days as well. We've just got some good stories to tell. But as far as ground specific goes, I quite like those 3 grounds.
And I think this is the thing with away grounds. It enables you an opportunity to. Not going to say we're particularly tourists, but you mentioned London, and you're quite right, because I think for me personally as well, and I've been fortunate to share some of these away days with yourself, and I think what away games give you as well is that it gives you an opportunity to perhaps get outside of your inner circle, and you meet so many people as well following, and I think as you sort of referenced as well. And it's something I picked up sort of early days. You are in that minority, so it's kind of that sort of, I don't know, pack mentality, if we can, pardon the Wolves pun, where you can kind of get out, you can meet people, and you can see different cities and share those experiences. And hopefully we'll have many more to come. Talk us through, I guess, before we move on to sort of highs and lows. What's your favourite away game, would you say, that you've been to? I know it's a difficult one because you can kind of put that into a couple of categories, can't you? You can probably kind of look at a game in terms of a spectacle, i.e. best performance, or sometimes you can be nostalgic and say that was a bloody good weekend because of X, Y, and Z,
Yeah, I guess into that, I mean, if you want a overall package of good weekend, I mean, we would have to look at Nottingham Forest, wouldn't we? We are going back about 10 years or so. It was during our promotion season, and it was a lovely weekend weather-wise. And we were stopping over I think on the outskirts of the city centre. We went out during the night. It was just obviously Nottingham city centre is really, really quite a big city centre, really. So we had the game where I think Kitely scored, and if you remember, it was our crossbar view. So we just about made it out, wasn't it, from where we were sitting? And I just remember us all getting dressed up, actually putting shirts on and going out for the night. And you probably remember that's the night where I got dropped on my head and got a concussion.
Yeah.
One of the cobbled roads of Nottingham, and just got patched up with a bottle of water, tipped over the head, and led into Oceana. And then wake up the next morning with a banging headache and going into the pub carvery and ruining everyone's Mother's Day meal by having 7 or 8 rowdy lads having a carvery on a Sunday morning. It's those sort of days with those sorts of stories, coupled with the results. It's just It just makes it fantastic. I mean, I could pick an individual result, I could just say last year, I don't know, Spurs at Wembley. You could pick one, but having the weekends, are really good. And we've got some stories to tell. Both me and you from like our Blackpool away days and Preston away days, which you could probably look past the game itself as being rather pretty much uneventful, but it's what goes on before and after that which make the weekend and make the stories.
I think this is it, and this is what sort of resonates because what we're trying to put over with this series is there's many platforms to talk about on the pitch and talk about the detail, talk about formations, talk about how well we've played, but football is more than that. Football is all encompassing. Football brings people together and creates so many memories. So, I mean, we could, like you say, we could probably do a separate pod just on away days in itself. So many memories within that. And now, really, in terms of sort of, we look at the highs and lows. Let's end with a positive. So, if I look at sort of your to date experience of following Wolves, what's the lowest moment you would say? What's the sort of single lowest moment of following Wolves to date?
I mean, there's probably quite a few contenders here, really. I mean, obviously, one of my earliest lowest moments was the playoff defeat to Norwich. In the year that we threw it all away, because I was convinced that I think after Kevin Cooper scored that goal, that we were going to go on and do it. And I just remember for a long time that summer replaying Paul Butler had the header. He had an opportunity right in the 90th minute, and he didn't make a good enough connection on it, and it went wide. And I was replaying that forever. And then naturally you could pick the 5-1 loss at home to Albion, or like a double relegation. But I guess for me, it's not. I guess it's cheating. Really, it's not really a moment, but the period of time where I felt really just low about Wolves was that Jacket 2015-16 season. So it was a season after we just missed out on the playoffs by a goal, and we hadn't strengthened properly. We'd lost a few players, hadn't properly replaced Sacco, and when you look back, it was just. I think it's previously been mentioned about how apathetic the whole season was. We had 7 home 0-0 draws that year, and infamously 4 in a row. And I remember just at some point thinking, what am I doing here? Going to Wolves. It just became a fact that I'm essentially just paying to see my mates, because we had our drinks before and after. The game was the worst part of Saturday. I used to almost dread the match day coming along, because I just used to think, nobody cares at the moment. Like, the fans just didn't care. I found it a real effort to actually go to the game. In fact, sometimes I think being in whatever pub it was that we were in before the game, I kind of didn't want to go. I just dreading like it becoming like 20 to 3, quarter to 3. And you think, oh, we've actually got to go to the game now, and there was just nothing going on. And I used to come back from the game just thinking, well, what a waste of time that was. I've just wasted, a few hours of my Saturday, and for what? I didn't enjoy 1 minute of that, and it was just awful. And I really questioned, was I being wise in spending money and time, or going to these games, both home and away, thinking I could be doing something else more productive with my time potentially. That was a really low point. For the first time since I got a season ticket, I questioned, should I actually renew? And not just like a fleeting question. It was really something I pondered on for a while, thinking, should I really renew? But obviously, I'm really glad that I did. I stuck through. And this is why you appreciate the good times now, because you stick through the club in the bad times and the really apathetic times, and eventually you do get rewarded with the good times. But yeah, that was a pretty one of the low periods for me.
And I think really, to touch on that, I think it's the apathy, and that's the key word, really. I think you can sometimes tolerate it when it's really shit in a perverse way, because you might think teams underfunded, and perhaps they're not just quite good enough, and you can kind of get on board with it and say, oh, well, there's probably reasons for it. But when it's kind of becomes a chore, you like you say, you do sort of question why you're doing it. But as you've kind of tied in there, really, for every one of those moments, and God, there's been so many roller coasters to kind of flip the coin. Then, really, what's been your standout? And again, that can be a game or it can be a period of time. I know we're seeing a great side. Time of recording, football's on pause, but from what we've seen in recent years, it's been amazing. But what was that moment you thought, shit, at that time, it doesn't get any better than this supporting the club?
Yeah, I mean, you're right. It's very easy to say right here, right now, because in my Wolves supporting lifetime, or probably in most majority of Wolves fans supporting lifetime, this time right here, right now we've never had it better as a Wolves fan. This is the peak that we've had it. For the people that didn't experience any European football beforehand. So for thousands of people, this is the best it's ever been. But the bit for me where I felt just elated and jubilant was that 2009 title-winning season, and quite specifically Barnsley away, where we clinched it. And I just remember, what a day it was. Everyone was all dressed up, in fancy dress. We had our Super Mick attire on. Getting on the pitch at the end of the game for Barnsley, just the carnival atmosphere of it. And then getting back to Wolverhampton just for more of the same. I remember just we got some drinks from the off licence that was next door to the Royal London. It was all drinking in the streets, getting cigars out. It was just that day. I just thought, this is brilliant. It was a culmination of such a fun season as well. That season, yes, we had that time during, I think it was January, February, where we struggled, but it wasn't just us. Both Birmingham and Reading struggled at the same time. But overall, that season was just so fun. Like I say, to flip the coin from before, where that season before we jack, it was a chore to go. This was just fun. You just look forward to every match day. Look forward to going away. Look forward to every home game, because we were brilliant. And at that point, everything just seemed to click. The team clicked, the manager clicked with the fans. Everyone was all on the same page. It was just brilliant. And I remember being, again, I think when they had the title celebrations, I was on the pitch as well, on the Molineux pitch celebrating. And I think just rolled into a whole package. That season, that time was just great. I just felt so elated with that, because we won something, and hopefully we get to see that replicated with Nuno and the team there, that we get to win a trophy or something, so we can get that feeling of having achieved and won something again.
That's brilliant. And just really finally on this episode, what I find quite interesting in terms of the football club is the football club. We look at the on the field, and we look at the results, and we look at our experiences as you've gone through today in terms of your highs and lows, your 0-0 draws to your title wins and your celebrations, and you can talk about getting back into the city from an away day. What does Wolverhampton mean to you, and how much importance do you think the club has on the city, and vice versa?
Yeah, you know what I mean. It's quite easy. People find it quite easy to run down Wolverhampton, and I'm not just talking like externally, but also internally as well. But I love it because it's at the end of the day, it's home, and the city does get a bad rep, and I'm not sure why, to be honest, because I know you get like Lonely Planet guys taking the piss and say like it's worse than Beirut or something. I'm not sure that's just to sell books or something, but you think, well, for a city that has the country's second biggest city next door, we've got a lot within the city. We've lovely places to walk. We've got a lot of like sport and amenities, like lots of golf courses, race courses, dog tracks, good schools, the football and everything. We do have a lot of stuff going for us. Obviously, it does have its downsides in the lack of a good town centre and restaurants and what have you. But it's not a perfect city, but it's one we call home. And to this day, I always, whenever I hear the city mentioned, or even just Wolves mentioned on like a national TV show or podcast, I still get like a flicker of excitement, thinking, "Oh, they're talking about Wolverhampton, brilliant!" And I like it when the city or the football club's mentioned in glowing terms. I love it. I really revel in it, and Yeah, it just means a lot. We do like to run it down, but it is home, and no, I do love it. And even when I go somewhere else for an extended period of time, I do like to come back. I like the familiarity of home. But yeah, no, I do love it, and I think we are quite blessed to have such a symbolic icon as the Wolves logo that represents us and our the city. So yeah, you can get a bit sepia toned about it. Quite easy to do that, but nah, it's our home, isn't it? It's our home.
And I think that's it. And I think there's an attachment and there's a relationship that we all have with the football club and the city. And I feel kind of like we're kind of guardians of it. And it's something we've spoke about before. And I can only really echo that. And I think what we're seeing right now, even in sort of the lockdown times, is a real togetherness, and the way in which the clubs got on board and the former players and the fans helping the NHS, and there's loads of initiatives out there. I think really just it sometimes sounds a little bit twee and cheesy, this one pack thing, but it's quite relevant as well. And I know we're both biased, but I really think what the club's doing right now and the fans are getting behind it shows the real character of the city. What we're going to do now then? Just really have a recap of what else you can listen to on the Fancast before we close. Obviously, me and Adam are a part of the Fancast. In these uncertain times, we're trying to bring you as much content as we can at the moment. So we've got the alternative Hall of Fame that's running, and we've got lots more stories from the pack to come as well. So finally, Adam, thank you so much for coming on board. We've got some great stuff there. We've got Tony Dinning, we've got Identifying a Hugger, the Mentalist at Derby, the Mother's Day episode, and they're all little nuggets of memories, which I think hopefully fans can resonate as well. So I know both of us would say thank you for listening during these times. If you've got any stories as well and want to get on board, then please do. Obviously, give us a 5-star rating on iTunes as well, because I know that helps. So from both of us, thank you, and stay safe and stay well.
So thanks, Apes.